20 years have passed since the original Pokemon games exploded onto the scene to indelibly impact the face of handheld gaming. Now in 2019, after an understated, very long wait, we finally have a main series Pokemon title on the home console. Before this game even left the case, it had to contend with through-the-roof expectations, controversy over leaving behind about 60% of the roster, and complaints over the Pokemon models being reused. Overall, diehard fans feeling cheated and like they've been taken advantage of by one of the most successful, if not the most successful gaming studios around. I play Pokemon Sword and Shield and, well, there's a lot to uncover here. I felt as if with every game review, it was important that I went into it with an open mind and clear head. So without further ado, here are my thoughts on Pokemon Sword and Shield. Let's talk about the graphics first. This game from the jump is extremely pleasant to look at. With bright, vibrant colors and a lush scenery, this game is undoubtedly a joy to be in. Little details like Pokemon flying around in the distance go the extra mile to really bring home that feeling of truly being in this world, and really grabs at your nostalgia strings. Each environment also has its own personality, which is important for keeping the lengthy story from getting stale. From a mine tunnel littered with shiny, colorful crystals, to a fairy forest with glow-in-the-dark neon mushrooms, every area had so much to look at and it's HD crystal clear. In battle, although still rigid, the Pokemon still look great and so do the moves. Fire glows and roars as it approaches an incoming target, electricity rumbles and flashes vibrantly as it crashes down. This game in general looks sharp in every way, but it's all built upon what's already existed. Although nice to look at, the game never goes too far out of its comfort zone. So what you get is a solid, crisp version of what came before, but with some new additions. The gameplay is just as addicting as ever. I know for the hardcore fans who won't have every Pokemon, it's a huge upset, but honestly as a casual fan, I was almost overwhelmed at the selection of Pokemon you have access to. Early on, you are introduced to the Wild Area, which is essentially a large expanse on the outskirts of the map, which is home to all sorts of Pokemon that change depending on the weather. The Wild Area is honestly where I hope future games draw influence from. You control the camera, and there's just something about having a full expanse of Pokemon world to explore over the linear structure. What's nice is just like Let's Go, the Pokemon in the wild are out and about and you can avoid danger. But also, if you want a surprise, there's exclamation points and rustling grass that pop up which lead to random encounters. From the start, you most likely will not be sure which Pokemon you want on your team because there's just so much variety. As the game goes on, those choices only get tougher. Probably more so than any other Pokemon game I've played. Battling is turn-based just as it's always been, and while some moves look better than others, still long for battles to at least take a step towards the anime. And I can't say you really get that here. Dynamaxing is this game's new thing apropos to Mega Evolutions, and while it looks really cool at first, it kind of loses its luster as the game progressed. I personally prefer Mega Evolutions, I feel it suited the game better, but I guess this was okay. Max Raid battles, which are these little, I guess like craters found in the wild area that you approach, it's a new feature where you click on it and you can team up with players to take on a Dynamax Pokemon. But it never really worked as intended for me. Every time I tried to do one, I couldn't get anyone to match up with, which was kind of a bummer, but you know, you get a lot of rewards for doing them, like XP candies, and you get rare candies, and that was pretty cool. With that said, what's here is polished and enjoyable, but that's just due to the all-time Pokemon winning formula. Mobility is punchy from your Rotom bike that can ride on water to responsive running that you never feel like you're really dragging your feet. There are a lot of convenience features in this game. Now each Poke Center houses not only the nurse, but also has a store and a person that can rename your Pokemon, tell you how you got each Pokemon, as well as help them remember moves, all free of charge. And that's really huge because that eliminated the hassle of finding different people for each task, having to also farm whatever source of payment needed to access their services. Also, there was little risks to trying new moves because if you weren't happy, you were just a Pokemon Center away from fixing it. I will say that I do miss the ability to have your Pokemon out of the Pokeball like you could in Let's Go, but I also understand there's just way more Pokemon in this game. But overall, the gameplay is great, but much like the graphics, it doesn't really innovate too much, and especially for what you maybe expect from a console version of Pokemon. Alright, let's discuss the story of Pokemon Sword and Shield. While I personally enjoyed it, I could definitely understand someone feeling it shallow. Essentially, the Galar region holds a league championship every year, and you have to beat out 8 gym leaders to ultimately be named champion. The current champion, who is undefeated, is a guy named Leon, and you are neighbors with him and his little brother Hop. Hop and you, under the endorsement of Leon, set out as rivals to win the competition. What's interesting about it is Leon gives you your first Pokemon. Hop takes the weak Pokemon to your typing, and Leon takes the one who's strong against you. So you always have in the back of your mind that you're ultimately going to face your weakness at the end of the story. The game's story is expansive, with other rivals joining the fray, like the crude Beatty, who is endorsed by the chairman himself, and Marnie, who has a raging fan base of goons called Team Yell, who you fight from time to time. The story, while straightforward, was also fun. It's not a super deep story, but it got the job done, in my opinion. My biggest gripe is that I almost felt that with the other characters, they outshine you. Hop struggles to live in the shadow of his older brother. Beatty overcompensates for a troubled past, always wanting to prove her worth. Marnie has a fan base that she never seems to want to associate with. And, I just feel like your character's kind of a blank canvas. And, you're just like the guy that beats everyone in battles. Another criticism is that overall, I do think Pokemon is due for voice actors, and that goes for the Pokemon as well. I feel that having just subtitles to read always creates a separation between you and the tension of each conversation or conflict. And I think at this point, why not? It's on console, so... And, the sounds that the Pokemon make at this point are kind of silly. And it would be kind of cool to have their voices from the cartoon. It would add a lot to the immersion. So overall, my thoughts on Pokemon Sword and Shield is that it is a very enjoyable and great game. But with a major caveat that for a Pokemon main series debut on console, it really doesn't innovate, which in this case is a little disappointing. With that said, I had a great time with this game. I personally feel that it is one of the best in the series, and that's really a testament to the winning Pokemon formula. I give Pokemon Sword and Shield a 4 out of 5. A game that is enjoyable and really doesn't do much wrong, but aside from some welcome new features, also doesn't make the leap to what you'd expect on a full console release. With that said, I do highly recommend this game to any Pokemon fan. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe. If you would like to be notified of any future content, then go ahead and ring those bells. This has been a Best Life Gaming review of Pokemon Sword and Shield. I thank you all for watching and hope that all of you out there are living your best life.